peace, and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is 6/6/1442 on the ancient moon calendar and 6/6/1441 on the ancient sun calendar, and June the 6th, 2021 on the Greco-Roman calendar. And on our ancient calendars, this month would actually not be the 6th month, it would be the 4th month, because our new year starts in March. So the first thing on our agenda today, we've been saying in the past that subjects and citizens are the same. Because, you know, some have been saying, well, we shouldn't be calling them subjects because they're people too. They're citizens. Citizen is a better word for them. They know that they're subjects, but I wanted to show you some more proof of that, because we like to prove what we say when we say things. Here, okay, on the document, let's just look on the screen. First, let me all rise and stand. This is a sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine, Moorish, American, Moroccan, Article 3, Consular Court. Action: I am sovereign, living justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, in capitis diminutionolo, in red ink. In proprio solo and in proprio heredes, my free, sovereign, chosen appellation is light to jury bay, in capitis diminutionolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo and in proprio heredes. So we have been saying that that subject and citizen means the same thing, and that those who are in that citizen status have always known that they are citizens. The only ones that are subjects, the only ones that did not know that were the Moors. So let me show you here. I took this screenshot from one of the channels out there on YouTube. His name is Mark Keyshawn Christopher, and he is a citizen who does, you know, he's looking for ways to free himself and all the other citizens. And he's another one of the ones who've been saying that the language, the corporate English, is fraudulent language. And they've been trying to find ways to recreate the language so that it does not, so that it's not corporate English, which is what we've done when we write in ancient English. We have already, all of us, developed a national language that we all understand and that we all share. And that's why we all share ancient English as our sovereign national expression, because the corporate English is fraudulent. And this one, Mark Christopher, is another one who's been, you know, out there trying to do all he can. He knows about the Moors because he's spoken about the Moors before. So he knows that we are the sovereigns and that we're, you know, we're the head of everything. And he's trying to find a way around the things. But he showed on a video that he did, I believe, over the last day or two, a passport that's issued by Britain, the UK. And their passports look a lot like the ones that the United States Corporation Company issue, and those are all the same. And he said that in this video that even if you get your passport from the United States, it's still the same. So he showed where they stamped in blue here that they are subjects and citizens by their own use of those documents. And that is why we don't use those documents. we're not subjects, and we're not citizens. We have our national ID card. And on the U.S. Department of Justice website, it clearly states that a national ID is in the absence of a passport, a birth certificate, and a driver's license. And the language on that has been morphed and changed a little bit over time, but it says basically that same thing, that a driver's license, a passport, and a birth certificate are in the absence of a national ID. So those out there who, and further in this video, and you can see the name of the video on the screen, further in that same video, he talked about how he took that passport. Well, he showed his passport, and he showed where he put a postage stamp in the back of the passport, and he signed over the postage stamp, and you know, he did this and that and this and that, and he's saying that now his passport is, you know, it's above the ones who issued the passport. And in reality, again, we cannot use their documents and then try to change it but still use it. What we're doing is getting off their ship, their citizenship, their subjectship, and we're saying we're the government, we're the law, and our national IDs, which they already know because they said it on their website. Our national ID supersedes any travel documents or any of their driver's documents or passports. They don't own any ports. And when we use their fake passport, that is us agreeing that they do own a port. Ooh, that's good in the chat. Nothing is above that which creates it. That's good, Justice Yezreel. Nothing is above that which creates it. If we want to be above citizenship, don't use the things that citizens create. If we want to be above corporations, don't use anything that corporations create. Now, we're keeping that stuff that they create because we're taking it, we look at it, and we say, okay, let's create our own on government letterhead by affidavit and speak that way. And then our national ID cards take the place of all of that. We are not subjects, we are not citizens, and guess what? The citizens are subjects. They're subject to the Moors. Period. That's what subject matter is for. That's why we don't even talk about subject matter when we deal with them. We do our court actions and all that we do, but we don't talk about subject matter like if we were to go into those fake courts, which we do not do. I would not advise anyone to do that. I would advise you to, instead of going in, do your own court action. But the only time we discuss subject matter with them is after we've done our court action language, which is at the top of the document that's on the screen. Let me put that back up just so that you know we're sure here. There it is. There's the court action language. All rise and stand. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Article 3, Moorish American, Al-Moroccan consular court action. And then you state your sovereign status and who you are. I am sovereign, living justice, Pauline Denise Ritchie, in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in proprio sana juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. And then you can say your free national name, your free national appellation. But let me say this too about what he put on the screen here, this document that he put on the screen. underneath or just above where it says British subject, citizen of the United Kingdom and colonies, that means that you don't own nothing. When you see the word colonies like that, that means that's not yours. You don't own any land, nothing. You're simply colonizing someone else's land. And let me tell you what colonization is. It is the equivalent of you have a living people who are on the land and you come and you infect or corrupt or change their culture and their laws and all of that. Or at least you attempt to do that, or you pretend like you did that, and then you fool the ones who don't pay attention to the law. But here, just above where it says, it looks like they stamped it canceled here. Do we know what that means when they stamp it canceled? Because, see, I know they have you thinking it means one thing, but it don't mean what they say it means. Some people think that once they travel somewhere and then they get it stamped canceled, that, okay, they traveled there and it's been, it's known that they traveled there, But that's not what that means. That means that they can sell it on the stock market. That means that there's another bond that's been created. The language tells it all. Can sell. Now, I'll say this about our court actions and about something further that he was saying in this new video that he put out. Because he's got great information, it's just in the wrong format. And I wouldn't say the wrong format. I would say for what he's trying to do, he's doing good work. He's doing great work. But everyone must be under their own vine and fig tree. Everyone has to declare who they really are. So we're not criticizing anything that he's done. In fact, he's showing some things that we all need to see that affirm what we've been saying. Yes, Justice Frank, it is in blue ink because that's what subjects, that's how we note a subject. Okay? So now, that's what I was saying also about when we do our documents, and but we'll talk some more about that a little later, about how we're going to proceed in terms of all that we're doing with regard to how we structure our documents and what color ink to use. We're going to always speak in red in all lowercase letters because it matters. If it didn't matter, they wouldn't be showing that. If it was black ink, and they even put it in capitis diminution minima, if you'll notice there, it shows each British starts with a capital B, subject starts with a capital S, etc. And then the rest of the words are small. That's what we were telling you about the subject. Subject status is that. And then dead status is all capital letters. And when they stamp it canceled, that's what they put it in all capital letters. That means they just made him and his trip and all of his exchanges a corpse, or whoever's passport this is. So we see what's happening, and that's why we don't use their stuff. That, yes, Justice Yezreel, that means it's bonded. They turned it into a bond. Bonds are in capital letters. Remember when in the movie Root, when they were trying to get Konsulate to say his name, and he kept saying something else, they were trying to say, declare who you really are. They've been putting it in front of us the whole time. We just have to know what we're looking at and know how to read. Okay. Yes, in capitis diminution minima, one capital letter only. but it is still a loss of status to a degree. Whereas in capitis nolo means no loss. That's why we do it the way we do it. And the one that was doing business as queen over there, whenever she wrote, she would write in red as long as the Moors were asleep. That's how come you never saw any of her writings on the public record. Anything that she said, they kept it from being on the public record where we could see it, because she would write in red and use lowercase letters as long as the Moors were asleep. But she, whoever holds that office, was granted that previously. Not anymore, because we're awake. That's how important the style of writing is. It's not a mistake that canceled is in capital letters and British subject and citizen is in capitis diminutio minima. And it's not a mistake that none of it's in red. Not a mistake. So, and it's also not a mistake that we said that we don't use their documents. We use our own documents. And our documents can't be with capital letters on them and blue or black ink. They have to be in red and all lowercase letters for those who are doing documents out there. Okay? Yes, in the chat, Justice Yermore said, same as the Pope, the one that was called Holy See, you're saying in the chat, he writes to the cardinals in red. Yes. Yep. So I wanted to point that out, and then also I wanted to point out that next week or this coming week on Thursday will be a solar eclipse. Things that have to do with the moon have to do with us specifically, the heirs here, the primogenitors here. Things that have to do with the sun deal with all the nations. So whenever there is an event with all the nations, you will see the sun doing things, eclipses or red or things like that, positioning, etc. And then when you see the moon doing things, it has to do with us and some changes that we're making within our nation. So that's on Thursday. So if you have any affidavits or anything like that that you need to send out, Thursday is a great day to do it. Great day to do it. And let me see. I wanted to show you one other thing that I saw earlier this week, and then we'll be showing you some major things with regard to states. And when I say states, I mean sovereign states. And we'll talk about that a little later too, and the rights that we have as the government and what we tell the states. All of that stuff is in writing. It's been waiting for us. So another thing that I wanted to show you is we've been talking about banking a lot. And we've been saying to the Moors to go ahead and start thinking along the lines of resumes and past experience and things that you've done or things that you want to do, because we're going to have to do everything ourselves, but the structure and the infrastructure is already there. It's already here for us. So as I was doing my research, I came across, and some of you may have seen this before, but I had not seen it before because I've never even heard of this position. But I came across a document that was for a universal banker. which I did not know there was such a thing until I woke up. Now I know there's such a thing as a universal banker. So let me show you that document and show you just how simple all that we're doing is. I like that, and I'm just showing you this just for us to just start thinking about some things, about how we're proceeding with our dalarium and all that we're doing. Okay, that's the only reason we pull this stuff up, not for anyone to use this, but for us to put it in red and use it for the growth of the empire. Okay, but I wanted to show you this just so that you can see how simple all of this is. It's not complicated at all. This was a two-page document. Two-page document. And they made it seem like it was something so complicated to say universal banker, but it's really not. The qualifications are not anything. This is not anything that we cannot do as a nation and as the bank, because we're the bank. These are things we're looking at because we're moving forward. So we're looking forward on how can we take all that we see on our land and use it for our empire. And I know that's the only reason this even popped up, because I was not looking for this at all. I had Googled something completely different from this, and this popped up. Let me just, okay, thank you for that. I thought I changed it, but let me go to this document. Okay. Okay, there it is. Thank you for saying that. So this is how simple this is. This was a two-page document. Universal banker. You would think that you had to be on Wall Street 15 years and, you know, graduated from 30 state colleges and all of that, you know, but no, none of that. And I know, again, that this is so that we can change this over to what we need for the Moors. Again, if you look at it, it's just talking about customer needs and paying attention to the customer and being able to listen. But this is a two-page document. The duties and responsibilities, which for us, we would change that to ministry. Essential ministry duties include the following. So we're looking at the language that we would use on our documents when we look at things like this. We don't have any intention of using any of this except to convert it over to our vast estate, okay, for the use of our government. This is very simple. It's a two-page document. Qualifications, a little bit of nothing. Be able to listen, be able to speak, be able to, you know, a highly professional image, which would be a turban and fez and all of that for me. You know, for us, how we do things. And this is how, and I don't really want to advertise for them because it's really not about them. This is what we're using for us. Okay? But I wanted you to see the simplicity of what we have to do. Universal banker is always going to be us. We've been putting the word universal at the top of all of our documents, so we already know that we're to take this and convert it over so that we use it for more sovereign dalarium and our banking system, the gold-backed banking system that we have to set up. So I wanted you just to see the simplicity of it because it's not difficult. Again, the things that we're doing, this is not something we can't do. You know, we can do, listen, we've been doing everything anyway. Some Moors, I know of Moors specifically who've owned banks. or thought they owned them in that status, but they know the banking inside and out. Okay, let's take that information and that knowledge, convert it over to what we're doing, and then use it. So with that being said, are there any questions or comments about any of what has been said here with regard to the banking or with regard to what we're doing when we see documents, any documents out there, because the documents have been coming, really quickly, and I'm loving that because we're getting we get way more information than we, the ancestors are generous with the information, I can tell you that. The hybrids really had no need for a universal banker, really, but we do. Okay, so we want to be sure that as we proceed, that we know that everything that we need, we have it already. Okay, we already have it. It's being given to us step by step by the ancestral energies. All we have to do is keep demonstrating what we're doing. Let's see. What do we want to do now? Empress Shade, are you here? I need to, let me make sure that I put it in. Let me just make sure that, to see if I can. Empress Shade, are you here? Did she make it in?
Yep, I'm here. Islam.
Islam, great. Okay, so let me turn the presenter. Empress Shade has been working on the banking piece, not the banking piece, but the real estate
you
piece.
You smacking on them ribs?
In connection with the banking piece. Okay. In connection with the banking piece. And with that being said, we're kind of marrying these two processes together because they work so closely together. But we are simplifying, okay? I want to say that we're, right now things, the scientists like Empress Shade and Empress Kenya and Justice Sage and some of the others, we're looking at these processes and the commerce piece. Many of the Moors are doing the same thing. We're all working together on this, where we are looking at the processes, making sure we have a good, clear, in-depth understanding of them, which Empress Shade has a very clear, sharp understanding of it. And now we're working on paring everything down. Empress Shade, I have to give it to her. She has pared that process down because, as we all know that when the hybrids were selling dead pledges, because they weren't selling property because they don't own any property to sell, they were selling dead pledges. And whenever they sold those dead pledges called mortgages, there was a stack of papers, 5 feet high that you had to sign and fill out and all of this and that and a third. Empress Shade has broken that process down and narrowed it down. And we're going to continue to narrow it down. We showed some things. She did a presentment a week ago. And we're going to be we're going to be continuously fine-tooth combing the processes, each and every process, and paring it down and putting it in bringing it over into the proper jurisdiction and making sure that we keep it simple so that, and I'm not saying that the Moors are simple, I'm saying that our status cuts out all that colorability. We don't need the colored language in our things, and Empress Shade has done a great job of paring that down and bringing it down to where there's a 30-page something and she can bring it all the way down, and that's going to assist even the new Moors or Moors who've never gone through that process before. Yes, nobility.
Is there a place where we can see Empress Shade, some of Empress Shade's work?
Right here. And Empress Shade may have it. She will give that information. She'll give that information too. Look back at last week's video because she did a presentment last Sunday, and then she did one the Sunday before that. So the last 2 Sundays, she did presentment where you can see her work. And then Empress Shade can give you more information about that. Empress Shade, with that, I'm going to yield the floor, and let me make sure that I turn the presenter process over to you, Empress, so that you can.
And I would just say to all the Moors, as far as if they're talking about like the presentation, like how I did the presentation for viewing purposes, I'm continuously adding to the presentation, so it's not complete, but I will give the presentation, so if anybody wants to, go over just to see how things work and how we're doing it compared to how the corporate was doing it, so you can get a better understanding and understanding of what's going on. I'm definitely going to do that, and I'm going to have it where I'll be able to share it with the Moors, or send it to your emails direct, whatever the case may be. I'll do that with no problem. And then also that new affidavits that are coming out now, we're going to be sending those out as well. We just had to, like she said, go over with a fine-tooth comb, make sure that it's going to be exactly how we want it to be to, simplify the process, just like Empress Light stated, because a lot of it was unnecessary. So I'm just so happy that it has been, simplified and brought down to the very minimal, and it's just going to make it faster, easier, less stress for all of us, including myself.
Simplify it for simple people.
Through all the stuff that we have been through already, and all the stuff that we learned into their little, schools that they had us in, everything was so complicated, just like she stated, based on their status, just because they couldn't do this stuff. So it just makes it so much easier. And so all of those affidavits are going to be given out to the Moors, and I believe they're given out to the Moors. I don't know if Empress Light is going to do it after everyone turns in their information to the exchange, and or is it going to be for Moors regardless? I don't know how you would like to set that up.
Empress Shade, you can. We'll talk about how to me, I think we should go ahead and put a package together for that piece, so that we can give them everything at once.
Right. Okay.
But just so that you all are aware, we're breaking everything down so that we can put something together, and we're talking our way through it with you here so that you can give your input on everything that we're doing. That's why we put it out here, so that we can hear from you and hear what you think about it. If you think things are too convoluted or whatever, just let us know so we can, tailor it and fix it and pare it down and look for more places where we can, strategize and put it together. But we need your input in order to, because the processes are for all of us. So let us know if there's something that you see, if you have any expertise or any experience. You don't have to be an expert, just some experience with it. Let us know. So, this is the place to talk all of that out. Okay, so that, but our goal is to pare everything all the way down to a nice, neat little sovereign packet, so that we can at least get a start on this real estate piece, so that the Moors can stop being put out of places and all of that. But we want to do it competently. That's the only reason we're really kind of taking our time and taking it piece by piece and step by step. And I know there are some Moors who really need this done quickly. We're working as quickly as we can with all of the pieces, with all of them. So, Empress Shade, with regard to it going out there, I think we should just put together, just pare it down as much as we can for now, remove the colorability from it, and give it to the Moors. And there are some Moors out there who will take it and edit it according to what they see and what they want. And that's the point. We don't have, they can do that themselves. Moors are competent to govern their own vast estate. We're not trying to govern anyone's estate, because that's too much work. We're just trying to get a starting point where we can all start and we're all saying the same thing and we're all, speaking with one voice and we're speaking competently. And once the basic foundation is competent, then the Moors can do what they want from that point. But we want to get it competent, which is what you're doing, Empress Shade, and which is what Empress, just all of us. We're all just trying to get things competent and pared down and removing the colorability so we can use it. Islam, with that I yield.
Okay. Oh, well, yeah, Islam on that. I'm glad that you said that because I am going to prepare the package, and obviously this would be like the templates, kind of like from what you're saying, it's going to be like the templates that we've done for all the Moors, so it can be edited and used. So I will put it in Word format, and then they could do whatever they want. But it's going to be like a guide to have the basic information, and then you guys, that sounds great. We need to do that then. Okay, so I'll be getting that together for all the Moors that may have been interested, like the noble that just spoke. I'll be getting that together then, so we can have that package ready for you guys.
Yes.
As soon as possible.
I'm kind of stressed because I still haven't done my inheritance packet. I was working on so many other things, but I definitely want to get caught up with what you guys are, putting into the picture and everything.
Islam. Yeah, and it's okay. I mean, I know life gets in the way sometimes, but all this stuff is very necessary, and it's time for it all. So for all the Moors out there, even looking in YouTube land and wherever else someone's seeing that video, it's definitely time to, get your affidavits together and put them on the record, and to do this process so we can start speaking with one voice and be unified,
Islam.
as what we need to be. Islam.
Yes, that's what I have some paperwork that I had put together that was inspired by R.V. Bay Publications, moorisheamericankonsulate.org, as well as the paperwork that Empress Light was putting together. Do you see what I'm saying? So it was not in the exact format that you guys are doing, but it still had like the cashier's check. I had that, and like a few other things. You know what I'm saying? It's all on the website. So are you guys saying that we have to do the Al-Moroccan exchange paperwork before we can do some of the paperwork that you have put together, Empress Shade?
No, what me and Light just stated right now, it looks like we're going to be giving this template out to the Moors, and it doesn't have to be part of the exchange. It would be for all Moors. Isn't that what you were saying, Empress Light? Because I want to make sure that I'm saying this properly.
Yes.
But there's going to be certain for. Go ahead.
Everything that we do is for all Moors. The Al-Moroccan American Exchange is for those who want to take responsibility for those companies grow the companies.
Right.
Yes. So they're chief executive heirs, and that's the format that we had to have a basic format for the money to circulate on.
Islam.
Okay. That was uncorrupted. But anything that we're doing is for all Moors. It's also going to be a good idea though, because I did see some of the documents and the reason we're saying turn things into the Al-Moroccan Exchange, put them on the public record too, but turn them, give us a copy of your documents also, because we want to see in red and all lowercase letters, because that is actually the key to the estate. That's one of the main keys to the vast estate. And the sovereign-born appellation is one of the keys to the vast estate. The hybrids tried to scare us away from that, but we have to use that. It has to be done that way in order to access the estate. People don't want to believe that, but it's okay. You don't have to believe it, but we're proving it every day, each day that goes by. So again, everything that we do is for all Moors, and we're not trying to tell anybody what to do or govern anybody's estate through the Al-Moroccan American Exchange, but we do want to see competent documents, and we wanted to make it known that we are stepping up and taking these companies. Because we leaned them, now it's up to us to do the rest. we can't just tell them they're fake and not be the real.
Right.
So with that, I yield.
I like how you said that, because we've been doing that for way too long. We've been saying you can't do this, you can't do that, but still didn't step up to the plate to take over. So they're like, okay, well, no one is stepping up to do it. It's like it's abandoned, and so now they're stepping up to still govern. So this definitely was a key to being able to make that transition. Did the noble that was on here, did he have any other questions or any other comments before I proceed? Because it sounded like he was going to say something when you were speaking. I just want to be clear.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Justice Apollo.
Okay, Islam. So right now, if anyone can see on the screen, please let me know. I just want to make sure that it's showing up. This is about as big as I'm going to get it. I don't think, let me see. I'm going to put
That's perfect, Empress.
Okay. I want to be clear. And this is the real estate section. We already discussed about how the sovereign credits. So now we're moving on. At this point, you've already turned in all the affidavits to where you have your sovereign credits authenticated, and you're moving forward to, you're looking for that domicile or that business like you would in any other transaction, okay? And now this is the real estate transaction in which the grantor, which would be in corporate world would be the seller, and the receiver, which in corporate world would be the buyer, where the two would meet and a contract would be in place to purchase that property. So this is where we're at in this process, okay? So we got the sovereign real estate process transaction. As I stated, it's similar to a corporate transaction. On the left side, you'll see in the black letters, the first step as a real estate agent or broker to any real estate deal, when you must first get the documentation to provide the service, like a buyer would get from their agent to say, hey, you know, I represent you and so forth, to go out and find properties for you. And then the seller agent, they would list the property and give certain monies for the service of listing that property on the market and doing whatever they can to do the advertising to help you sell the property, okay? Next, if representing the seller, the agent will list the property for sale, and if representing the agent, the agent's buyer would take those listing properties and nail it down to the criteria that the client was looking for. If you want to be in Illinois and you want to be in one specific city and you're looking for that 3-bedroom, 1-bath home or whatever the case may be, all that criteria would be given to the buyer's agent, and then that buyer will go out and find all the properties that fits the criteria. Next, once the buyer finds a home that fits what they're looking for, that's when the agreement comes in, that contract. They're going to submit an offer. Okay, they'll submit an offer even if it's not accepted yet. They'll submit an offer, whether they are trying to pay full price. If the home was $100,000 and they say, oh, I want to pay $90,000, it needs work or what have you, they'll submit the offer hoping that the seller would agree. And then lastly, after an agreement is made, then contracting must commence, in which the seller and buyer signs the contract upon agreeing terms, and then they would move forward with the closing process, okay? Now for us, though, go ahead. Were you going to say something, Empress Light?
I was just going to say, now that's all the stuff they did. That's not the stuff we're doing, because that's the convoluted corporate. That's what they did. What we're doing is simpler, much simpler.
Right. Now, for our side, if you can see all in red and lowercase letters, which we talked about some things a little bit earlier, Light, that may have changed what I'm about to say right now, but I'm just going to read what I'm about to say, and then we can discuss the changes, okay? So what we had made it to be is, for the sovereign process, the sovereign real estate scientist will provide affidavits and accept sovereign credits for providing services to the nation, that's still, you know, is going to happen in its own right. However, all of us are the real estate scientists, and all of us are going to be doing our own due diligence on the properties for whether it's domiciles or whether it's businesses or whatever you're taking over. We're all going to be doing our own due diligence to find out as much information as we can prior to doing the affidavit to contract to purchase, okay? Now, the second one you'll see right here, for domiciles hitting the market, the domiciles and moorishe businesses would be listed on the Amexem Land Bank site. So we're going to have our own Islam?
Is the domicile still called a crib?
Okay. So the domicile would be the domicile for the Moors, okay? The crib may be for the ones that are not the Moor. If you want to sleep in your baby's crib, then so be it. That's up to you, okay? But for us, we're going to be domiciling, all right? So we're going to have ours listed as I just stated on the Amexem Land Bank site, right? And this would be where it would be just like the MLS system, which was the multiple listing service for those who are unaware of that site, and also the same properties that you will see on the MLS, you probably will see on Realtor.com and Zillow and all those other places. They get all their listings from the multiple listing services in all areas. It would be similar to that, okay? And we're going to list our own properties on the Amexem Land Bank site, which you know, is going to put it on the market to make it available to all Moors, whether they're in that territory or in other territories, or in even in on other continents and so forth worldwide. Whoever is looking and they want to purchase your domicile, your property, is going to be available to them. Okay. Now, lastly, once a Moor finds the land, etc., domicile that meets their criteria, and at the time when I wrote this, I put transfer of care, but we now have it down as it still would be an exchange, and it still would be a purchase, okay? It's spelled differently in our own old ancient English, so it still would be a purchase. And then at the time I put maintenance would begin, and the sovereign credit would be transferred at closing, which is still sovereign credit will be transferred at closing, and the added value price of which the previous heir added to the land and labor would be added to the purchase price, which that also is true. So if you, right now, everything we are getting, and it is always going to be as is. However, in any property that you purchase is going to be as is. However, even if it is as is, if the Moor, the heir that has that domicile, has put their sweat, equity, and labor into that property, it's going to go up in value, just like any other property will go up in value for the labor that's put into it. However, they're not going to do any more to the property unless you guys have something that would be totally a separate, you know, agreement that you guys have in writing. But to keep it simple, we're going to just make it as is. Okay, and when the heir, which is the receiver, closes, whatever you decide to do to the property, it'll be totally up to you, and you can use your sovereign credits to fix anything that is not that is in need of repair. Okay, that has been left. Would you like to say something on this part?
Yes, please. Thank you, Empress. With this part, Moors will keep that in mind when they look at the property. About
so you would go to Crib Depot then.
What they can do
Crib
with
Depot.
What they can do with the property, what needs to be done, and all of that. The Moors can keep that in mind as they're looking for domiciles, and pick a domicile according to, what you can do with it, or what needs to be done with it, or what you don't want to do with it. Okay, so some of the domiciles won't need anything done. Okay, so it just depends, and that's completely up to the sovereign. The majority of the processes and things that we're doing is up to the sovereign. Okay, and again, when she used the word purchase does not mean buy. it means that a sovereign exchange is going to go on the public record, but we don't buy or sell land. That's why she didn't use the terms buy and sell, because a purchase is not what they said it is.
So Crib Depot is the Crib Improvement Store?
Hold on for a minute. Let me lock this. And so, again, we know that the land is unalienable and inalienable. We're going to keep that in mind, and I'm glad that the Moors are aware that it's unalienable. That's not what we're doing here. We're not leaning anything. We're really just recording an agreement between two Moors and assisting with that agreement between two Moors and making sure that because all land and all natural resources belongs to all heirs, we need to give a good account for it. That's all we're doing. And we're not going to allow the hybrids to continue doing what they've been doing where that is concerned. It's our job to do it. We're going to work through these processes, and we're going to do it. So, you know, we're aware of it not being, you know, we're not buying and selling anything. We're facilitating the proper governing of the resources. With that, I yield.
Yeah, get your kids back, Sade.
And I would say that just to make a suggestion to the Moors out there, I would suggest that if you can do your inspections, please do so. Your interior and your exterior inspections when you can, because that would make it easier for you to know what's going on with the property ahead of time. If you can get one of your contractors to, you know, the carpenters and so forth, to even look at it and see, you know, all that is needed, so you'll know ahead of time.
Isn't a contractor a contract?
Everything go much smoother for you, make the process much easier. So when you close that deal, you're solid with knowing what's all that was wrong. When you can. If you can't do it, and depending on right now, you know, you may not be able to look in and do an interior inspection. And if that's the case, then you may want to make sure that, you know, you negotiate your purchase accordingly, according to the fact that, you know, you have not been able to see the inside, so you want to make sure that your sovereign treasury check could potentially cover things that you can't see. So do it for a little bit more.
About that?
Yep, Islam.
Okay, so what we want to do with regard to where we're going in these processes is we want to elevate our thinking, okay? We want to elevate our thinking to the point where we wouldn't buy a domicile without inspecting it ourselves. We need to elevate to that point. Mm-hmm. We also, you know, the purpose of all of this is so that we can be proactive and not reactive about what we're doing. Okay, so we're not going to be in a hurry to buy a domicile. I mean, to do an exchange where domiciles are concerned. We're not going to be in a hurry to do that. We're going to actually take our time and competently move through the process, so that there is no unforeseen anything where people have to drop everything and start running around. We need to plan and to be proactive about everything that we do, plan what the sovereign credits process is going to be and all of that for ourselves before we even think about demonstrating domiciles. We want to demonstrate at the level of our overstanding. That's something we've been saying from day one. That has not changed, and it will not change. We need to be able to demonstrate at the level of our overstanding. So we're not going to build in a whole bunch of things that say, oh, if you can't make it to this, then do this, then we'll put this in. No. We need to plan ahead. We need to be proactive. And because these are all prepaid exchanges, we have no excuse. We have no excuse but to plan properly, take our time through the process so that we can tell our heirs how to go through the same process unencumbered. So we're elevating our thinking above always reacting to things, you know, and thinking about, you know, risk, the risk in this. There's no risk in what we're doing because everything is already prepaid. And keep in mind, with regard to the condition of the homes, that's what the indemnis facier is for also. The indemnis facier is whoever has the title and the indemnis facier to the domicile, that's who's going to do the repairs. And so we can do things. We can buy it as is and then work on improving it, you know, because but we have to plan ahead and not always be planning, because see, their contracts were always made for if somebody slip on a banana peel and something happens, whoops and wow and oh and all these surprises and I didn't know this was going to happen and no, we're not doing that. We're planning properly and we're going to be competent as we go through.
That's how you got out of the VA, didn't it? That's how you got out, right?
And now they got a new one coming in here.
I was about to say that's I don't recognize. Who was that?
Yeah, a new one. You know, the little group is growing. More to put out. That means I gotta get out of here quick. But
okay. I have one more thing.
Go ahead, Justice Apollo.
Hey, because you know what I'm saying, I was gonna go ahead and just tell you guys about what's going on with me. Because what you just said, you know, we're gonna take our time and do it competently. I'm basically in a situation where, you know, I'm living with my dad, you know what I'm saying, in this very, very small apartment. And he's not interested in his birthright. He doesn't want to claim his nationality. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't want to discuss the Moors or anything like that. And we get into these arguments very periodically about, was he an effective dad? And it's, you know, are things his fault? Yada, yada, yada. So, you know, to prevent stuff like that from happening, I'm kind of just going to go ahead and put myself out of his house. Even though I technically, the house that I'm have a litigation on, you know, I haven't gone through all of the steps that you guys are speaking of. But what I have done is I have issued an affidavit of full disclosure that includes the allodial title, it includes the cashier's check, it includes the indemnis facier, and a lot of the other things that we were discussing maybe about 2 months ago, right? And there's been a certificate of default put out, and there's also been a writ of mandamus and a writ of possession by divine command put out for this property. And I feel like I'm ready to go get inside of the property. It's listed on Zillow, and, you know, you can reach out to the realtor, and they'll give you the code to get in. You see what I'm saying? So I feel like I'm ready to go get inside of my house, inside of my domicile, but I haven't gone through with, you know, some of the, you know, exchange pieces that we're now talking about. So I kind of just want to know, like, what do you think about that? Because generally, you know what I'm saying? Because only thing I think I should be doing, I know I saw the affidavit from maybe last week. Easton had shared it with me where there's an affidavit that we have to show that, you know, there's no more fraudulent transactions allowed to take place on this property. The foreclosure, affidavit foreclosure, something similar to that, or judicial sale. Those two additional pieces, along with putting a flag up, you know what I'm saying, was pretty much all I was going to do afterwards. And then I was going to just, you know, change the locks. So I didn't know what you guys thought of that, or, you know, how do you think, you know, I should proceed, Islam?
Here's what I think about that. We cannot tell sovereigns what to do. Sovereigns can do what they want to do. So we can't tell you to do that or not do that. So I'm not going to tell you to do it or not do it. What I am going to say is what we've been saying the whole time. Always demonstrate at the level of your overstanding. Always demonstrate at the level of your overstanding. I know, having said that, I know that our ancestors expect us to govern this vast estate and do it together. I know that. I also know that the things that we're doing right now, we're putting it in place not just for us, we're putting it in place for future generations of Moors. Okay? And so that is what our ancestors wanted us to do. They want us to take over these processes. And that's what we're doing. We're doing it, and we're not going to rush that. We're going to take our time so that once it's done, we don't have to keep going through the same thing we've been going through. So having said that, you are sovereign and can do whatever you want to do. If you feel competent to demonstrate what you're doing, then demonstrate it. I didn't, I'll say this. I didn't have anybody that I could look at when I did the POW demonstration in February. I didn't have anybody that I could look at and say, okay, they went in and they did court actions on them, but it worked. So we can't even say that what you're going to do is whether it's going to work or not. We can't say that. You know that because you know what you know. If it were me and I felt comfortable, which I have felt comfortable in February, I felt comfortable. And the answer
I can tell you right now that your shit's not going to work. None of your shit's going to work.
Let's step up and assist her. She's feeling comfortable. Let's assist. That's what the ancestors said and did in their energy. So, Justice Apollo, you're sovereign. We're not even telling sovereigns what to do with these documents and things. We want to put a competent foundation out there for these processes. That's all we're doing. And even once we put them out there, the sovereigns can edit them as they choose and all of that. But some of it needs to be, we need to speak with one voice. We need to have some things need to be organized, and that's what we're trying to do. We're just trying to get things organized so that we're not all over the place as a nation, so that people know for sure, yes, we're a nation. We speak with one voice, so that we can have each other's back and our strength is in our numbers. So that's what I think about it. I think that you're sovereign and you can do whatever you want to do and always demonstrate at the level of your understanding. And no matter what, we're here. We're not going anywhere. And I'll tell you this about your demonstration. Come back and tell us how it's doing, because we know you coming back to tell us how it's going to go. We know that there's nothing that's going to. You're protected. You're protected. You're protected. Do the demonstration. Our ancestors wanted us to honor them and be ourselves and stop trying to be citizens, subjects. So I don't think there's any wrong way to do that unless you're warring back and forth. If you have, clear all war energy before you do the demonstration, and then, do what your ancestral energy tells you to do. You're sovereign. Islam. Anybody else? That's what I think about
it. Islam, I know I would like to add to that just a little bit by saying I know something that I'm demonstrating myself, and that is I know we removed our corporate contracts and so forth off of ourselves, but I'm also putting in affidavits, terminating that corporate address on the domicile, terminating the corporate address so they won't even think that they have, quote unquote, any jurisdiction on that particular one. And I know we may have done that in other affidavits as well. That's probably already out there, but I do my own little extra one that I'm going to do, and removing, if necessary, removing those numbers off of the domicile. You can always get mailing through the care of. I have a PO care of address that I use to get mailing from, and put up your flag. And so, but that's something that, I'm doing, that I'm going to do to demonstrate for myself. And if anyone would want to do that just to add extra to it, so be it. If not, that's totally up to you. Like you stated, that you're the heirs. You can do whatever you want, but I'm just throwing it out there for those who may look into wanting to do something like that themselves as well. Islam.
Islam. Thank you, Empresses.
Islam.
No problem. No problem. Okay, so we're going to move on to this, and I only have 3 slides, and then after that we're going to get straight to the contract. I'm not trying to hold up anybody's day too long, and it won't because it's simplified, so we don't even need to do it for too much longer. And this particular part is the sovereign real estate purchase process. Similar to the real estate transaction, and these are the key items that you would need to close. On the left, through the corporate, definitely you need a real estate contract, any type of addendums or riders. Addendums or riders was just special conditions going along with the contract. So they would have a basic contract, and then they would have special terms or whatever that was solely between buyer and seller. Then you would need the pre-approval letter, or an approval letter from your financing, whatever banking that you went through at the time. I already mentioned about the riders and addendums. You would put down earnest money. That would be some type of deposit, just showing good faith that you plan on purchasing, and you're going to go through the whole entire process, and you're not going to default on your contract and not purchase for any other reason than not getting financing or the inspection not completely coming through the way you thought it should come through, or the appraised value not coming to be the value that needed to purchase the property and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff will be eliminated
yes,
ahead of time with us, so you won't have to worry about that, because all of your due diligence to make sure all that was done would be ahead of time. As like stated earlier, you're going to have your indemnifier that's going to take care of anything that's wrong with the property anyway. And since you're not coming from that place of lack that we have came accustomed to through all these years, to where it's like, oh, am I going to have the money for this and that to take care of this and that? Those things were something that was vitally important in the corporate world that is really going to be unnecessary now. Okay, and then also you would have your agent representative agreement, whether it's buyer or seller, for them to do work, any type of services for you. You would have the appraisal, of course, to say how much the value of the property, the inspection, we just spoke on that to see what was wrong with it ahead of time. And then the rehab and construction, after you do the inspection, depending on how much was needed, you may want to have a contractor come in, which would be some type of carpentry or plumber, electrician, what have you, come in and tell you exactly how much things would cost. So you'll know ahead of time, because, of course, these would be things that you would have to, pay for, and most people will want to know ahead of time, okay? For our side, we're going to have our real estate purchase affidavit, okay? We're also going to do our sovereign credit authorization affidavit that's going to take care of our authentication affidavit that's going to take care of our pretty much the whole purchase of the domicile. We're going to have our sovereign original indigenous natural divine United States Treasury check, okay? We're going to have our Moorish American Land Bank Ministry Service Affidavit. That's going to be in place, just covering whatever service that is provided by the Land Bank Ministry, or whatever real estate companies by the heirs that's going to do whatever ministry if needed, because as we stated, you guys are the real estate scientists yourselves, so a lot of the stuff should be taken care of ahead of time. And then we're going to have the more sovereign market valuation affidavit, which is really simple, okay? You should be able, since we're doing things dollar for dollar, as what we've already seen in the market with the United States dollar and our dollarium is going to be dollar for dollar. It should be easier for you to go out there and look at other properties that have sold, even through corporate, to say, okay, in our sovereign capacity, in our sovereign status, this is what our market valuation is going to be for our particular property, as far as what you're purchasing, to know that you're getting it for I would say, the price that it's that is worth in its current condition, okay? And then next would be the moorishe inspection. As Light just explained, you should have already went and did an interior inspection, exterior inspection, and if you need any other service, dealt with any other inspector ministries and so forth from someone that may have more knowledge in that area, and you want to, you know, pay them credits to come in to help, that may be able to see or find latent defects. And those are latent defects, just mean repairs that maybe you can't see with your naked eye. Okay, and then they'll put that because you will want to make sure that your sovereign check, treasury check covers it. However, the innvestmente is going to cover it as well. We're going to get into that a little bit more, but it should cover, you stated, about 3 times as much as the property's market value. Is that correct? Okay, so it should cover that. Okay, and then lastly was the sovereign estate, you know, rehabilitation affidavit, which will be like a rehab and construction estimate. So then you'll know how much credits that you would need to really make all the repairs. And it's more about keeping accounting, because once again, you're not coming from a place of lack. You're going to have everything you need to do these repairs. So it's more about keeping accounting, keeping tabs of all the credits in and out, etc. For your books and for your own file. Okay, is there anything that you will want to add to this before I move on to the last slide? Okay, so we're moving on to the last slide, and then we're going to get into the purchase contract. Okay, sovereign real estate scientist. Now, when I did this, and some of this is still going to apply, others may not, but I'm just going to read it off for right now. On the left-hand side, of course, you will see the corporate. You will have the seller agreement to list the property for sale on the MLS, and this has to do with your real estate brokers and agents and their description of what they would do for you if you employed them to do a service, okay? Then you will have a buyer's agreement to purchase property in a particular area of your interest with all your criteria. You would already have prepared contracts, riders, and addendums that we spoke about previously. This is what they would get for you. This is what the buyer's broker or agent or the seller's agent would do for you. At least part of what they would do. Then they would prepare a CMA report, which is a comparative market analysis. Now, a comparative market analysis is a little bit different, okay? Well, it's a lot different than appraisal, because an appraisal was in high detailed. I mean, it was fully detailed of every little piece that you can think of about the property, the dimensions as far as each room, the land. They would go into county information and is it well and septic. They would go into a lot of more detailed information into a full appraisal that an appraiser would do, that really at this point is unnecessary, because we're not going to be dealing with a lot of, you know, those corporate government facilities to really have to go through a lot of that that would be on an appraisal, and to look at something like a CMA report, a comparative market analysis, which what buyers and brokers do. You guys will all be able to do that by looking in the areas and seeing what's sold. And we're going to go deeper into this. I'll give, you know, some type of lessons on how you guys can determine the value of a property by looking at the comparisons a little bit later, okay? Because even though you may see a property that is similar, if one of them needs work and the other one doesn't, is fully fixed up, then of course the price of the one that needs work would be lower than the price of the one that doesn't, even if they're their exact same model with the exact same dimensions and the exact same land. So we want to keep it, you know, simple, and that CMA report is more like a summary that simplifies the, you know, really the whole process. So we're going to dig a little bit deeper into that later, but like I said, we're going to simplify everything for you. And then I put do a limited inspection. Now, Buyers and real estate agents and sellers real estate agents or brokers, they did do some inspections. They wouldn't do a full detail inspection, but they would do inspections based on what they can visually see, okay, what they can visually see that was wrong with the property, and they would let either the sellers know or they would let the buyers know, hey, this is what I see that's wrong with it. And then you would hire an inspector to come in and do a full inspection, or your city or village may even have someone come in to do some type of village inspection, and they would tell you where your property is not up to code with whatever their village or city codes are on building and the building materials needed to stay in compliance, okay? So that's where that would come in, but we would do limited inspections of mainly just repairs, okay? And then next would be for corporate, you would meet with appraisers, attorneys, contractors, and inspectors. That's what all realtors would do to pretty much to orchestrate that everybody work on one accord to close the transaction. So they would be the facilitator amongst all these different people that are the appraisers, the attorneys, the contractors, the inspectors, and even with your lender to make sure everybody's working on one accord to get the deal to the closing table. All right.
Again, this is the corporate. This is what they did. This is not what we're doing.
Right.
Just wanted to make that clear.
Right. Absolutely. And then next would be preparing the closing documents necessary to bring to the table to close. There will be some closing documents that the buyer, seller, a broker would gather for you, and then also, like I said, it work with the closing company to make sure that those documents was given, as well as your attorney to make sure that those documents was given before closing, so you can make sure pretty much just a checklist, okay, just a checklist to make sure that everything you needed was turned in and you have a complete file to close, all right? And then lastly would be the real estate buyer or broker would market the property beyond the MLS. They would put signs out if they had to put ads out in newspapers and wherever else that they can get out to publicly that there is a property for sale. They would do so. And most of the time it's at their own expense because they would get paid at the closing table. Okay, moving on to our side. We do have the sovereign real estate agreement affidavit for services provided. Now, me and Light just changed this today, okay? So it's going to be a little bit different than on here because, once again, you guys are the real estate scientists, so you guys all are going to be responsible for doing a lot of the work yourself. Now, you may still have something with right now the Maxim Land Bank for the services we provide to completely, try to close the deal for you and help you out in that aspect. But a lot of stuff you guys are going to be doing yourself. Next was the Uniform Sovereign Land Responsibility and Real Estate Property Transfer and review for completion of affidavits, etc. This really would be where the sovereign credit authentication come in, because even as real estate buyers, agents, and sellers agents, they still wanted to know that you were approved before you even before the seller even signed the contract, that your offer that you were giving them. All this stuff is going to be complete. We know it's going to be complete because the exchange is going to come in and make sure that it's complete, and then the Maxim Land Bank is just going to be like a second service to make sure that everything is complete. So you're going to have a couple of eyes on that, a checklist to make sure that everything is in, to make sure that you guys are having a complete file, a complete transaction to close the deal.
Okay. May I say something about that? So we're not doing like approvals or anything like that.
That's
all
right.
We're doing is making sure that the documents are in red and all lowercase letters, that it is a Moorish American national, that that they've leaned the fake social and the fake that court that was pretending to be them, and that they are doing that their documents go out as court actions. That's the start of everything, and then we'll, you know, everything else is going from there. Is bouncing off of that. But some of the things that we're looking at, and we'll be talking about this over the next few weeks with regard to those documents and everything like that, is how we move together as a nation in commerce, because there's some bigger things coming down the pike for us in terms of properties and all of that stuff. But we have to show that we're continuing to show the ancestors and ourselves that we are competent to do what we need to do. So, you know, we're not doing any approvals or anything like that. You're already approved. You got the bloodline and the birthright. We're just making sure that the Moors now and also the new baby Moors that are coming in stay in the proper jurisdiction. That's our main concern, is jurisdiction, 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 so that when you get your properties, there will be no mistaking that policy enforcers cannot be coming up on your property and kicking things in. And we're not really ensuring that. We're making sure you know how to insure it for yourself. So we're going to continue to put the information out there. Islam.
Right, Islam.
Oh, one last thing, too. One more thing. Any changes that we make, because Empress Shade mentioned changes that we're making to the process. Even as we go, we're seeing things that we can upgrade and fix and things like that. That's going to continue. We will always do that with all of our processes. We're doing that. Any changes that are made will be made to shorten the process, to simplify the process, and to expedite the process, and make sure that it stays in our sovereign jurisdiction. So Empress Shade knows the process inside and out from the corporate perspective, and then all we're doing is she and I are working together to ensure that the process that we you know, the information that we put out is keeping everything in the proper jurisdiction of our ancestral inherited estate, which is reversion of estate in action. And with that, I yield. Islam.
Islam. Okay. So, yeah, just like Empress Light stated, is more, like I said, like a checklist, because it's not an approval. We just want to make sure that all your affidavits are in, and as she stated, that everything is really just a complete file. Okay, that everything that you need to close the transaction. That's pretty much it. Next would be on the list is generate a sovereign moorishe market valuation comparative report, and I spoke on that already previously. So we're going to get into that more on how to do that, you know, a little bit better to make it easier for you guys to do it yourselves without an issue. And it's going to be very simple. You won't have to worry about that at all. Because it really doesn't take too much to look at other properties and compare them. So we'll just make sure that you guys are doing it to make sure that that value is there for the purchase price that you are purchasing the property for.
Aren't you afraid you're going to lose your license to practice real estate?
Do a limited sovereign exterior and, when possible, full interior inspection. Now, we've already just discussed this. You definitely need to do the interior and exterior inspection already, okay? So that should be done ahead of time. If you want to do that full inspection, please do so. I mean, like with an inspector that is their ministry to do that. So they can, if you want to dig deeper than just doing the limited. However, I will have an affidavit as a checklist for you guys to be able to go around and kind of check off the list of different things that you should look at, that you should be able to look at and see and say, okay, you know, or things that your eyes should be looking at when going into these domiciles and these properties even for businesses, things that you should be looking at, just so you can see off of your limited inspection and get a good idea of what you're dealing with that particular property. Okay. Next would be meet with all land valuation scientists, rehabilitation scientists, sovereign inspectors, and all. I put law ministries, but you are the law. Okay. And if anything, it'd be for us just to make sure that those affidavits, the templates that we either gave you or even if you created your own, is put in place. And then we just spoke on the valuation, etc. Go ahead, Empress Light.
So the number of sovereigns that will be involved in one real estate action, court action, because they're all court actions, is going to be 3. It's going to be the grantor, or the one who has the property listed. It's going to be the one who's interested in the property, and then it's going to be the bank and the real estate scientists together, because we're actually working together in that arena because we have to. So all of the valuation scientists, rehabilitation scientists, sovereign inspectors, and law ministers and stuff like that, all of that will be the sovereign real estate scientist's job all the time outside of each transaction. So for each transaction, they don't have to get with those people and meet them. That's going to be something that the real estate, that's what makes a real estate scientist a scientist, is they're working with other scientists to, to come about with the process. So, the Moors don't necessarily have to worry about, like, did she get with this? Did she get with this scientist or that scientist? What did the rehabilitation scientist say? What did the land valuation scientist say? It's not, that is going to be something that's an ongoing relationship with the real estate scientists and all of the scientists working together, including the banking scientists. All of that's work. We're going to be all working together the whole time anyway. So with regard to what the sovereign real estate scientist is doing where the Moors are concerned is facilitating the recording of any land transactions that happen on the land. And again, this is all sovereign real estate scientists. We're all going to be recording because we're all courts of record. So that's what this process is about, is recording the movement of the land in terms of conveyance methods, the land being conveyed from one sovereign to another. Okay, and outside of that, the Moor will be coming to the table with a lot of responsibility on their own, because Moors have to be competent to do these processes. We can't move from the corporates doing everything to just a few Moors doing everything. All hands on deck. All Moors need to know the inner workings of the processes, and then that's how we all grow in this whole thing, so that it does not look so much like the corporate. By the time we get through, everyone is well acquainted with the process. Islam, how you?
Islam, and I like how you stated everything. You're absolutely right. We're all going to be doing a lot of the work ourselves. We need to be doing a lot of the work ourselves. We need to be governing. Everything is that you're doing is a part of your business. You know what I mean? You're even purchasing a domicile. It's a business transaction in its own right, just based on the fact that the property is something that's you may domicile in now, but eventually you may sell it and you may do work to it.
Transfer it or convey it elsewhere.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah. And I have to get that. I'm going to have to get those our terms in my head for that. But yes, you're right. So we're we're going to be, learning more and more on how to do this and setting up some type of basic, I want to say instructions, but it's more like a template itself on all the things that, you guys would need to look into and do yourself, and then you could just check it off the list like, okay, I did this, I did that, I got this, I got that, and then you're close to the end of the transaction, because at the end of your checklist, everything should be checked off that list, that you've done everything, before getting to the closing table. All that should be taken care of before you even get to the closing table. And then lastly would be marketing the real estate itself to all the Moors, and I explained that a little bit earlier as far as the Maximum Land Bank being, like the MLS system, helping to market the real estate to the Moors worldwide, okay, that are looking for domiciles and businesses in your area. And so that's going to be something else that the sovereign real estate scientists are going to do. Okay. Do you have anything else to say about this, like before I get to the purchase affidavit?
I just want to say that we're going to be, each of the processes are going to be, we're going to continue to look at them and continue rising where the processes are concerned. So don't let this, don't let this seem like it's too complicated or anything, because we're going to continue to put out, and again, a packet. We're going to put out a packet, and it's going to be very simplified in terms of all of the colorability being taken out of the process, and it being pared all the way down to the basics of what the heirs, who are the sovereigns and everything, to what would be pertinent for us to properly record the conveyance of the land from one heir to the other. Islam. That's our goal.
Islam, okay. So as you can very well see, as she was explaining, complications, okay, how complicated this process is. This was one of the contracts that we used, okay. This came directly from the board that they gave us. This was one of the newer versions, and as I was explaining to Empress Light, it seemed like almost every couple of years the contract just got longer and longer and longer. I remember when it was 4 pages long, and then now it started turning to all of this. I'm just scrolling down because a lot of this is unnecessary, but I just want you to see why this may have been giving some of you more headaches and why you guys were stressed out, and the reason why. Okay. Okay, so we're almost to the end of this, but look at all of this. And then you finally get to the end of it, 13 pages long. Okay, and that's why it probably seemed like you needed those attorneys, and you needed those, the agents, the attorneys, and the loan officers and everybody else to do everything for you, because everything was just so complicated. But as me and Light expressed a little bit earlier when we were talking, things needed to be complicated a little bit more for them because they were trying to be us. They were trying to be us, so they had to do more. They had to do more. It had to be much more complicated when it's colorable like that. Okay? So this is their corporate contract, as you can very well see, and it speaks on the buyers and sellers, and this is where that information would come into play. And right here, this would be, the acreage or the lot size, okay? You already know about the address, the state, zip, county, and this is their PIN number, which is the permanent index number or identification number that they would use to for taxing purposes and recording purposes and etc. Then they ask you single family attached. Single family attached just means does it have generally, does it have the garage attached? That's all they meant when they said that. Or single family detached if the garage was not attached. Was it a multi-unit, like a multi-unit building? Hold on one second. and so forth. And then this will go on as far as parking and storage, places for storage, etc. Okay, so that's their section.
And Empress, they can actually, you know, instead of going through this whole document, they can take the time to look at it and pull it up. Is there a document number that they can look at so they can see that whole document when they have time to go through that whole 13?
Oh, yeah.
What that mess is.
Yeah, because I'm not even really going to go through all that. But if they've seen it before, and I can actually, as a matter of fact, if you look up, hold on one second. Hold on one second. I think I did it. Okay. If you look this up right here, multi-board contract 7, and Google it, this should pop up. This should pop up, and you should be able to see it yourself. If you don't see it, you can email me directly, and then I'll send that over to you, or make it to where you guys can see that yourself. Now let's move forward with ours. Let me go back. Okay. So this is our universal moorishe national agreement to this way. It was supposed to be acquisition real estate affidavit. I'm going to fix this above. We always start off with the court action in place, so I still have that there as well. And then right here we have the sovereign receiver, which would have been the buyer, sovereign grantor, which would have been the seller. We're still going to give the location as far as the address near territory. We still want to know the acreage and the lawful description of the property instead of the legal description. We have our lawful description. And instead of the PIN number, we're going to have the Mexam Land Bank number right here, so we'll know. It's going to give us another way to be able to identify that piece of property with either putting the address or by the number, and we'll be able to find that in our system, especially for listing purposes, etc. Because we're not taxed, so this is unnecessary for taxing, but it will be still good for recording and being able to find information on that particular property. And then we still will have whether it's single kin, attached, single kin, detached, multi-kin, industrial, or land. You have to check off that list. Very simple, very simple. Okay, and now we go straight into the purchase agreement. Now, I'm not going to go into detail of this. I just want you guys to see the section of what they had right here. This is where they had with the purchase and the price and the credits of closing and where the earnest money would go to, etc. Right here for us, very simple. We have our acquisition price and conditions of payment, which right now you would spell out how much that you're purchasing the properties for. Then this will have to be, let me take this off because it would be the be it symbol right there. And then you would just put the amount right there as well. And then you would put whether you're doing it in more sovereign credits. Eventually, and I only left this section here, right here, about the gold, silver, precious metals, and gems, etc., because eventually you will be doing transactions, and you may want to, do the transaction with gold, silver, precious metals, and gems, and so forth. But for right now, we're going to do the moorishe sovereign credits, okay? And that would be done before even going to close the deal. So you would check whether it be A, B, or C, which is sale by a land contract. And we only had land contracts in here because we had it, which light, now just thinking about it, it depends now. I mean, this still could be in here for now, but the land contract was only for some people that, say for instance, a moor was doing work to a property and like a property they may have been damaged. Say it may take 3 to 6 months, and that moor still wants that property. They may want to, put something in place. It would be totally up to you whether you want to, keep this section in place. Like I said, it's just a template to where, you'll have a land contract, and maybe you may want to put some of your credits or your precious metals forth to hold that property until the property is complete. if you're not doing the work yourself and the grantor is doing the work for the property. I mean, that still may be the case, and you know, you may want to do more of a land contract on it until it's complete, or just wait until the property is complete and then just buy it outright. But it gives you an option. Okay, you have that option there. Next, okay, Islam Light.
Thank you, Empress. So we want to make sure that we, and Empress Shade and I were talking about this earlier, we want to make sure that we don't inject ourselves into any contracting that you may do amongst yourselves, because that's not why we're here. We're here to just, again, give account for the land from a governmental perspective. And again, you know, we have to show that we're competent to do that and competent to have everything turned back over to, you know, the rightful heirs where we control everything. So, and when I say we, I mean all Moors, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. But we want to avoid, in this process and in all of the processes that we do, we want to avoid being the third party in any contracting that's going on between the sovereigns. If me and another sovereign decide that we want to do some things between us, there should not be anyone injected in the middle of that. So we're trying to keep all of that in mind as we move forward. The thing that we're doing is, again, just accounting for the land in a competent manner. And with that, I yield.
Islam, I'm glad you said that, because now it's bringing us to the next sections that we talked about earlier, and I have in place. Earnest money. Normally, like I stated before, earnest money would be more of you putting down until you close the transaction. But a lot of times, earnest money, let me say this, earnest money was not even in the legal aspect, earnest money was not something that you had to do. Even in the legal, even in corporate world, it was never something that you had to do. I think a lot of people was misinformed and thought that you had to put down earnest money. No, that's something that the seller wanted, because I had purchased many properties without paying any earnest money. It still was as you stated, like, it still was something between the buyer and the seller, and the agreement between you guys on whether or not they wanted earnest money or it had to be or not. You know what I mean? If the seller said, hey, I'm okay, you know, just get the deal done, I just want to close, then we'll just close the transaction. We wasn't worried about earnest money, okay? So, and I left this in here because I wanted to remind myself about what we talked about before. And, like, I want you to share some light about what you talked about, because, you know, you hit on some key stuff earlier, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to remember all this, but it reminded me, you was talking about how our word is our bond, and with us being Moors, and, you know, we should be working on that bond system like how we used to. But go ahead, say it how you said it, because you said it better.
We are elevating our thinking and our exchanges with one another. We're elevating everything that we do above what it's been. It's been in a corporate, you know, status where we were minors, supposedly, and all of that. We're elevating what we do so that, for example, earnest money. The example that I gave Empress earlier is, let's just say if Bill Gates and Warren Buffett were at a dinner party and they said, and Bill said, hey, I'm selling my house. You know, do you want to buy my house? Then somebody at the party, or Warren Buffett or somebody, would say, yeah, how much you selling it for? And they would talk about that, and then Bill would say, okay, meet me at the house tomorrow and let's do the paperwork. And they would do the paperwork. So earnest money was never needed in the first place. That was just another something that that was put in place because it was another way for the hybrids to get a fee and all of that. But with a prepaid gold-backed exchange, The go-back exchanges are not going to take 30 days and 60 days and 90 days. They're not going to take that long. Me and another sovereign can agree today that we're going to do an exchange, and that exchange can happen the same day. And that's why the Moors have to be competent at all that we do. Do the demonstrations as you're competent to do them, because as the hybrids are out of the way, it's going to be Moors doing these exchanges. And as we do the exchanges with one another, the exchange can happen in a day. And it will happen in a day in most cases, because we'll already have our affidavits ready to go. So that earnest money and, you know, all of this time between someone putting it on the market and agreeing to sell it to someone, or not sell it, but agreeing to exchange it with another Moor for whatever they agree on, whether it be gems or gold or more sovereign dollarium or sovereign credits, any of that. We're going to make it, see, everything that we do is not going to be as convoluted as it was previously. So earnest money is really like earnest money and down payments on a domicile and all of that. That stuff is not even going to come into play, because everything is prepaid from the get-go, from the beginning. We decide that that's what we want to do. Our word is our bond. If I say I'm going, if Empress Shade calls and says, you know, Empress Light, I want to buy your domicile, and I say, okay, meet me at the domicile tomorrow, and we can do the exchange, and not buy, but you know what I mean. I mean exchange, do an exchange on it. Well, then if another Empress calls me that evening and says, "Ooh, I heard that you're moving out of your domicile. I'd love to have an eminent dominion there." Then I'm not going to renege on Empress Shade and say, "Oh, well, no, I'm not going to sell to her. I'll sell it to you, you know, or we'll do your exchange instead of the exchange that I'm doing with her." No, my word is my bond. Empress Shade, if I told her that I'm going to do the exchange with her, then I'm going to keep my word and do it with her. No matter what, I'm going to keep my word. That is key in elevating our thinking, so that we don't have to jump through those colorable hoops that the hybrids put in place for people who don't keep their word. And I told Empress Shade this earlier, and we will get to this point at some time. Right now, we're escaping colonialism and we're escaping capitalism. So we're doing these things now, but ultimately, and I'll say this, and it's going to hit home with some, ultimately, contracts are for people who don't keep their word, or who can't be trusted to keep their word. That's really what contracts are for. Moors used to not have to do contracts between one another because everyone was honorable. We're going back there again, but as we're coming out of capitalism and colonialism, there are some Moors who still, you know, some still have some programming with regard to trusting other Moors and things like that. Okay, you have that going on, then that's what these processes are being put in place for. But ultimately, over time, we're going to get to the point where you know, we have a lot less of that, of needing to put these types of processes in place. But right now, we need them in place so that we can show that we're competent to govern our own vast estate in this manner. So that's where earnest money and things like that, we really don't need it, because, again, you're going to be prepaying for everything up front. And the agreement is settled at the close, right there on the spot. Okay, so if I told Empress Shade that I was going to do an exchange with her on my property, then I'll do the exchange with her. She will do the sovereign credit, and the exchange is done. We don't have to keep going back and forth and hashing things out and, oh, you didn't fix this, you didn't fix that. No, it's all done as is. And then anything that needs to be fixed, the indemnis facere or the sovereign credits of the Moor who took the property, and that's why we're going to be doing our own inspections and things more. We have to be competent to do that, and then be competent to know that, okay, I can fix anything that needs to be fixed, because we've been doing it anyway. We've been fixing our own stuff or letting it go, and we're growing up past that too. We're past all of that. So our job is to continue to elevate our thinking so that we trust one another again, so that when we say something, we don't have to put sovereign credits on it just to make sure that it's done. When we say it, we just know that, okay, I already know Empress Shaday's word is good. I already know that that Empress Shatali's word is good. I know Empress Kenya's word is good. And I'm just saying, you know, we should be saying those things about each other and then proceeding as such. I know Justice Apollo's word is good, Justice Theodore, Justice Jill. You know, we should be saying those things about each other. And, you know, we're putting these things in place right now, but over time, we'll get back to where our ancestors were, where they just, you know, because this is the grand rising, so we're going up. Everyone's word is their bond. And that's what I said about the bonds. Our word, yes, Justice Jezreel put it in the chat, that was cultural with us. It's in our blood. It's in our blood that, you know, that our word is our bond, B-O-N-D-E, bond. That means the bond between each other. You know, with us, a bond is not debt. A bond is an actual something that brings us together as a nation and as brothers and sisters. In the chat, there's a question. What if an Albion owns a house I want? What Albion you know owns a house on this land? Not one. Not a single one of them has the title.
Islam.
Not
they didn't.
one.
They never owned it. Even in corporate, they never owned anything. It was always set up like a rental agreement. No one owns anything, and they said it. They said it. So if you thought that deed and stuff was your ownership, that was a lie. Because if you really owned something, it wouldn't have been so easy to take away through the foreclosure process.
All of that, Empress, all of that. Now, let me say something about that real quick. That is how you know that them hybrids, they have, and I don't want to say it disrespectfully, the hybrids and those foreigners who've been on this land, that's how you know that they do have a law that supersedes what they do. And they're not running rampant on this land because they knew not to sit up and talk about we own it now. They knew that. More that ought to tell y'all there's a bigger issue going on here, and that is in our favor, because they knew not to create that kind of a madness on this land as if we were going to have to go to war over property. We never had to go to war over property. They knew they never owned anything, and they proceeded like they never owned anything too. So everything is it still belongs to us. It's still in our favor, and they are not lawless when we are in our proper place and proper status, etc. I yield. Go ahead, nobility. Just to follow.
Islam, Empress Sade, you said that even in corporate, so I guess you're speaking about, like, you know, in everyone's downtown area where they have the skyscrapers, all the banks and all the big buildings. You're saying that it was under a lease, like they have all the buildings under lease agreements?
The deed was never a real true ownership, because they always told everybody, I forget what statute that was, but they always told everybody that everything was owned by the state. The state owns everything.
Gotcha.
So you never really own anything. As a matter of fact, there's a saying one of those Albions had put in place I think you said it not too long, Empress, like, please let me know if you remember, but it was something about own nothing but control everything.
Yes, one of the Rothschilds.
They live by that model.
They said that. Yeah.
Okay. Own nothing but control everything. So going back to what you just explained, they knew that they never had any ownership. They just wanted to try to control it the way they did while we were asleep.
And you know what? Let me. And I don't mean to cut you off, but there is he doesn't call himself a Moor, but a brother by the name of Yusuf L.
I know who you're speaking of.
It's on YouTube, and he said that one time, own nothing and control everything. And I actually thought it was compelling, but to hear that it was coming from the Albions, it just makes a lot of people look very questionable over time as the truth starts to come out more and more. No, the ownership is what we want, because they were fraud. It makes sense now, you know what I'm saying? They were fraudulently, you know what I'm saying, having everything into the fraudulent linguistics and everything like that. So, okay, I yield.
Yes, Islam. They said own nothing, control everything, and the same mouth that came out of, which was one of them Rothschild. Rothschild means red shield. That means exactly what you said. They know that they're custodians, and they were custodians, and that they are subject to the Moors. Red shield. They're shielding that red flag. And that same mouth said that I care not who makes the laws if I'm in control of the money. And that's why we did what we did with regard to the Moorish sovereign dollarium. Is because the hybrids did not care who made the law, because they already know ain't no law but the Moors. And if the Moors are not making their own money, then they can do what they want with the citizens. And if Moors thinks they're citizens, then they're going to do what they want to do there. So, again, the hybrid is not lawless if we're in our proper place and our proper status. They're not, because they know not to go beyond what we tell them to do, because we created them.
Islam. I like how you say that. I just want to reiterate that about that particular part. You know how they will always say, I noticed the Albions would say, they will always say something was the law, but almost everything that they were pointing to was never law. It was always statutes, codes, and rules and regulations and some type of guideline and procedures and so forth. It was always something like that. It was never the law. They just would say it, and in our minds, because they said, well, it's the law, we had it in our head, it's the law, even though we're seeing that it says code this, you broke this code or this statute. We seen that and still put it together like it was the law, when they already telling you what it was. It was some type of penal code that you broke. You know what I mean? It wasn't the law. Okay, so they know the law, like she said, and we're in our proper status. They will not break the law. They came here because, you know, and chose to be up under those laws, okay, to stay here, and we just have to be on our proper status to insert it, and not trying to be a citizen or a black or a Negro and all that extra stuff that they tried to put us under, and to be under those colorable titles, so they can think that they can do whatever they want with you. Okay, so going back to the earnest money section, as Empress Light just stated, it was unnecessary in the first place, and we definitely, I personally, I know that we're going to get to the point where the Moors are going to stop fearing. I'm putting that energy out there right now. We're going to stop fearing, and yes, our word is going to be our bond, and this particular portion is going to be completely obsolete, but it is in there now. For right now, and you can you'll be able to edit how you choose and do your transaction with your grantor and your receiver the way you want. Okay, so we're gonna move on from this particular part. Now, I kept this in here, so now you got to come back again. Now, wait, let me just go before I even go there. Let me just show the section so you guys will see it. Okay, so this talks about closing, financing, etc. And they talked about cash, and this was all the sections that I just had. But look how many pages it took to kind of say some of the same things that we went through with just how we're going to pay with sovereign credits. They needed all of this just
all
to say
that black ink and capital letters. Ooh, my eyes.
I'm not even going to go through all that, but this part, the prorations, generally they would say, okay, your taxes would be prorated, and the homeowners association fees and et cetera would be prorated, and stuff of that nature, where you would have been paying a certain amount based on the date that you closed, and then the grantor, which is the seller, would be paying a certain amount all the way up to closing. I put this in here as credits and adjustments because I was looking at us having credits coming in and credits coming out, and I thought, okay, proration, some people, and I'm bringing up utility because you got to get on into that. Okay, I want to make sure me and you are on the same page. I see you shaking your head on the utility. I'm like, what? And I asked Light, I said, well, what about, utilities and taxes? Well, I know we ain't taxed, but utilities and so forth, and it being paid by the seller, quote unquote, which would be the grantor, all the way up to closing. They need to pay those things. And then she said, and I yield.
And then I said, we're all in a trust. We're all in a trust. That trust is a sovereign trust, a living trust, and the trust is established by our word. So nobody is in there, it's established by our word. And that trust takes care of everything that has the word public attached to it. Public utilities, public land, etc. The overarching trust of the Moors takes care of those things. Okay, that includes utilities and trash service in its most basic minimal form. Now, if you want gold-plated garbage, trash can, that's you going on into your estate for that. That's not basic. That's not public. Okay, that's some private stuff that you want for your domicile and your estate. But public anything has everything to do with the overarching estate. And so those things, we just get a statement from the public trust, and public being the Moors, okay, the heirs. We get a statement saying this is how much your domicile used this month. This is how much your domicile used last month. And every month a statement is mailed out. It's not a bill. It's not anything to pay. It's a statement that says this is how much came out of the public trust for that domicile that you're in. It's for counting purposes. Yes, Justice in the chat. Yes, it's for counting. And I'll say this: those who used to be in the military, you've seen those before, because whenever we would go to the doctor, they would send a statement saying, and at the top of the statement in big black letters, it would say, this is not a bill. It's a statement, and it tells you what was taken out and what was put in and how much they charged, what the deductible was, and all of that. But nothing ever came out of your check, and nothing ever came, you never got a bill for anything. That is how all of this was supposed to work for us, and it's going to work like that with things like utilities and things like that too. We just have to agree that all of us that we have our trust in one another, and that we're the government, we're the law, and so those things come out in that way. You have to have your property allodially titled in order for that trust to apply. It has to be in red and all lowercase letters because that's the creditor. And our trust has nothing but creditors in it. It has no debtors in it at all. No one being the authorized representative or anything. So that's where, with regard to now, that's where the credits are concerned. With regard to assessments and adjustments, there aren't going to really be any involved in what we're doing, because again, if I write a sovereign check, a check from the Treasury for the price of the domicile, not the price, but for the exchange value of the domicile, then we're done. That's it. That you got what we agreed on, and I get the domicile, which is what we agreed on. And that's whether you're getting it directly from the government or from a government official, which is one of the Moors, any Moors. Accepted for value. That's the question in the chat. Do we need accepted for value? At some point we will do that, because that is also going to be in connection with liens that have been filed Universal Commercial Code 1 affidavit liens, okay, because those are the only kind of liens we do. Universal Commercial Code by affidavit 1. And then we do all of the other types of Universal Commercial Code liens by affidavit as well. And in this case, where accepted for value comes into play is with a Universal Commercial Code 3 affidavit, which is connected to the Universal Commercial Code 1. And it subtracts from the value of the Universal Commercial Code 1. So when you do the Universal Commercial Code 1 affidavit lien, and you do it, let's say, for $100 million, and you see something that you want, you then do a Universal Commercial Code 3 to go with it, to debit from it the amount of whatever it is, the domicile or whatever, and then you say, okay, this domicile, I'm taking possession of it because the market exchange value is accepted for value by this Universal Commercial Code 3. This 3 and this 1 together that means that it's accepted for value through those two documents, affidavits. Okay. In other words, the value is accepted because it's taken from some debt that was incurred by anyone attempting to own it. Okay? So that's what Universal Commercial Code 3 affidavits on government letterhead in red and all lowercase letters are about. And there's always with a 3 going to be a 1. So that's what accepted for value will be for us. There are other ways that accepted for value can be done. So that's not the only way to do it, but that's one of the ways to do it. And with that, I yield.
Islam. I also wanted to add in something that Grand Sheik said at one point, which is that what we should really be signing off on vouchers for things, which was very interesting to me. And you know, I was going to take a look at that word in the dictionary and see, you know, what subjects or parts of law is connected to, but the concept of being able to sign a voucher makes sense to me, because when you go to any store to get something, depending on what it is, they will print out a bill of particulars for you. They'll print out like a receipt before you actually swipe your card. They can print out a receipt for you. And so I think it also is possible to set up the person, whoever just asked, you know, it's acceptance for value, something we will use. I'm sure you can, but you can also look into vouchers and getting the merchants, not the merchants, but getting the subjects to understand that they have to prepare a voucher so that we can sign it and then, or autograph it. And, you know, if they want to put that in their register and let that be, you know, however much it was in the fiat, then they can do that. That was something I was going to look into as well.
Would that be necessary, Empress Light? Would that even be necessary? Could you add on that right quick?
Yes, the Moorish sovereign dollarium that we have, you know how you have to sign it in red and all lowercase letters, that would be considered one of those because it's based on a financial system. But also I have a dictionary here with the word voucher in it, and it says, it gives several definitions. One of the definitions is, in Old English law, the tenant in a writ of right, one who calls in another to establish his warranty of title, also called a voucher. The act of calling a person into court to warrant another's title to a property. So you have something there. That's good, nobility, because that's definitely, that will be another accepted for value piece right there.
That's from the Grand Sheik, you know what I'm saying, when he was like, you know, we really should just be signing off on vouchers. So, you know, we'll have more information on that coming soon.
Islam.
Yes. Islam.
Yeah, you know, I was just thinking about what he stated with that voucher process, and you know, because I knew it was a lot of Moors doing that, but a lot of Moors was doing that throughout all this time in the corporate system, because that was in place. And I'm wondering, how will this work because I know we're on the cusp of that transition to where, because even the hybrids are saying, oh, we're in the republic, that we're actually already in, whether people haven't realized it or not, because they haven't paid attention to, it's already been announced that we're in the republic and that corporate system is gone. I wonder, is it going to be the same way? It's always been multiple different ways to do processes to get to the same, result, the end result. And many more has had successful processes in the corporate world getting to the exact same result as he explained, with the, the vouchers and the accepted for values and all different type of ways to do it. However, I wonder, is it going to change now? And if we even have to do those things, because a lot of that stuff was still a little bit more complicated, type of movements. We had to do so much more because we were still focused on that system. Now things are changing and that system is obsolete. Could you shed a little light on what I'm stating right now, if you understand where I'm coming from? Okay.
Islam, the corporate is bankrupt, so they don't have anything to give us anymore, and we assisted with bankrupting them on the record because they were already bankrupt off the record. So the voucher has to be based on a system. It can't just be a voucher that's kind of out there. It has to be based on a whole system that's put in place. So the corporate system was a dead system that was put in place because we were thinking we were dead. Now that we're alive, vouchers can be in the form of Moorish sovereign dollarium that each Moor signs and puts their right red thumbprint on when they use it, because it's based on a whole financial system that's been put in place since time immemorial, a gold-backed system. Vouchers can be, liens can be considered vouchers. Or you can, there's any number of ways. United States, the Treasury checks that that the Moors have in their hands are vouchers. A voucher is, when you vouch for somebody, you're just saying, this is good. I have full faith and credit in this. But see, we have to do it together. Whatever system, the hybrids don't have any say on what our systems are. But the ancestors have said, as long as y'all do it together, you can do it. So we're just doing things together. And that's what will make a voucher system work. So if everyone uses Moorish sovereign dollarium as their voucher, it's going to work. And that's what we had in mind anyway. A voucher just says, yes, these resources are available. A voucher and a check is the same thing, because you're signing and someone somewhere is saying, this is good. We guarantee this. In the chat, there's a question, are not vouchers a form of transmitting utility in the old corporate system? In the old corporate system, vouchers were, because that system produced those vouchers. But when in the new system, we're producing everything. And as we become the producers of everything, then it becomes a part of our system. We can't produce debt. We can only produce credit. Islam. Hopefully that answers your question, Justice, in the chat. They produced it, so it's their system and it's their voucher. With us, we can use the same term, but it has to be gold-backed sovereign vouchers. Based on our gold system.
Islam, one of your YouTube videos from back in January, the brother was saying how he used a bill of attainder and anyway, he kept sending it back to him because they had the straw name on it. And it worked. He said he did it in May and it lasted till January. I was trying to send you a recording on your phone, but I can't. It's too big. But anyway, I was just wondering, because I did a demonstration on the quit rent. And this was back in February, and they sent me something about COVID-19 relief fund for you can't pay your rent. But anyway, I just ignored it, and I sent them a default, because I did the quit rent. Now, I heard in one of your other videos you say, if you live in an apartment and you do that, just go on and lien them. So I'm going to try to take over this complex that I'm in for right now until I get my domicile back. Islam.
Islam.
Yes.
So here's where we are too with that. Again, you know, we have to be ourselves no matter what. We can't. The processes that we've been using, even though, for example, like I was saying, some of the processes initially 3 years ago were in black ink and capital letters, and the ancestors still honored them, but then after a while the ancestors say, okay, it's time to upgrade that process and put it in its proper place with what you've learned. And that's where we are with all of this. Is some things they'll work for a little while, and then we have to upgrade because the ancestors will give us the information, but we still have to keep going up with it. And that's what we're saying even about these processes, is over time, and our Grand Sheik has said it before, the things we're doing now, 5 years from now, we won't be doing these things. We'll be doing something else, you know. But right now, we have to go through the exercise, and that's what he said too. We have to go through the exercise of doing these things right now, and that's, you know, that's all we're doing. It is the learning curve, indeed, Islam, and demonstrating who we are. We don't have to worry. We'll be all right. We may get a few bumps and bruises here and there, but we'll be all right. Islam, I use.
Islam. I do remember that. I remember the Grand Sheik saying that in 5 years from now we won't be, and he was absolutely right, because we had to do what we had to do at that present time. And number one, because all these demonstrations and everything hadn't taken place yet. We didn't have the information in place yet, but we do now. We do now, and that time is over, and we can use our new process. It's going to be weird for maybe a little minute, because we might be so used to doing things in that old system, so it might be, you know, a little weird transition. But as we stated previously, we're going to try to make it just as smooth and as simply as we can as possible, to make it easy for all the heirs to, you know, move over into us governing the vast estate and doing things in our sovereign status the way it needs to be done. It needed to be done for a long, long time. Okay. And to tell you the truth, I know I only went over the portion of the contract, but it's close to being over. Our real estate affidavit. I'm just showing you on the screen. Like I said, you can find this on your own time, and if you want to read through it. But they talk about the deed and all these tax transfers and stuff, title, etc. And before you even get to that, you had to go through all of this, talking about attorney reviews and all this extra stuff, just to even get to this portion. And let me show you ours, just how quickly, because we're almost done. Property title, bam, this is us, okay? Right here, property title is conveyed to the receiver at closing. You're not waiting. It's not a long time. We don't have to do abstracts of title and all the extra stuff that we had to do in the corporate system, because that stuff had to be done, and based on the chain of title and extra stuff had to be done, because they never owned anything. It was going back to that, and you had to try to trace it. Really, it was going to be traced back probably to maybe the state, and going back to those land patents eventually to that point, and they had to trace it back to that, just to show that they were able to occupy those particular lands for that particular time. And like we stated, that time is now over. Okay, and then the next portion for that is property possession. Very simple, one-liner. Okay, possession is going to be at closing. Possession of the property is going to be at closing. Okay, and we just put the date. You may want to put the date on there. Whatever the date that you decide to close on will be in that section. Light, I don't know if you want to quickly say something about this, because we did talk. Did you say yes?
Go ahead.
Okay, we did talk about how the heirs, when it's time to go and give possession, it doesn't have to be all that extra of, you know, oh, you're going to get possession in 2 weeks after we close, or 3 weeks and 4 weeks after we close. And I'm saying this to the Moors that may have done those corporate transactions and may have that in your heads, like, oh, when I'm going to get possession. could you please, give a little bit on that,
on that portion? Yes, just briefly. We're planning ahead, and our word is our bond as we move forward. The Moors who put the domiciles on the market, they're already going to know where they're going and what they're doing. There will be no, we're competent now to move forward without it being where, oh, my new house didn't come through, the financing didn't come through, so we have to stay here another 3 months and all of that. We don't have to deal with that. Everything is prepaid according to the estate of the heirs, and we're just going to move forward that way. There are no delays in possession because everything is prepaid, and we don't have to keep going through all of those hoops. Islam.
Yeah, and as you stated before, you had said something like back in the day, people had moved out already before even marketing their property, and if the heirs, if you're closing on that day, you have the credits, whether to not only, if you planned ahead, okay, if you planned ahead, was that the 5 P's, my consorts say that all the time, proper preparation prevents poor performance. If you plan ahead, you would have already had, your domicile, your new domicile in place. This is what you would like to have completed already, your new domicile in place. You've already moved, then you mark it so then you can deliver at closing. Worst case scenario, you have the credits. You stated earlier, if you need a hotel or rent another domicile for a minute, you need to give possession at closing. We want to make it as simple and as easy as possible, and we need to start definitely thinking and governing ahead and not thinking from a minor point of view as a child, in which we needed all of this stuff to be in place because we needed so much structure as this parenting corporate entity to tell us, oh, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. You should know what to do and what not to do. You should be planning. You should have all this done ahead of time. So think like that. Think of having everything done ahead of time, and then the last portion of it is, let me market this property so it can be closed. Okay? Moving on from that is loss. We spoke on that. A lot of times loss would have to do with fire damage, an act of God. Things like that happens, okay? Act of God would come into place. This was a longer section. We shortened it to 1 sentence because typically if an act of God would occur, the heir would have time to really just void the contract. The contract would be voidable and say, hey, okay, yeah, the house burned down. That domicile has burned down. I don't want it anymore. How we're trying to get this done now with our transactions is you will be closing in that day or within 24 hours or so forth, to where you would know it's not like that 30-day process in which you had to wait to close and anything could happen to that property within that 30-day closing. You should be able to close that day and the property's still standing, and your indemnis facier will take over at that point. So if anything happens, once again, you're not coming from the place of lack anymore. Even that loss, having that section in where, oh, the contract is voidable and so forth, was coming also from a place of lack. You're looking about what debt you're going to be in by having to have this property fixed and yada, yada, yada. When just we're narrowing down the closing. You can close that day. You can close within 24 hours. And, if you want to see that it still exists, go check it out before the time you close, or close at the property itself. If you want to close at the domicile, you can do that. We can set it up. We have computers and everything can be done that way, or even do a visual, have somebody come out there, do a video of it if you have to. I'm just giving suggestions of whatever you need to do to have less fear, less stress, because I believe from what we came with today, if you're closing that day, that should get rid of that fear, and your indemnis facier should take over any fear or any stress that you would have from being from a place of lack. Were you going to say something on that as well?
I was just going to say that whoever has the title to the domicile, even up to 5 minutes after closing, someone's going to have the title to the domicile. Someone's going to have it. And whoever has the title automatically has the indemnis facier. So even 5 minutes after closing, if the new receiver has the title and the indemnis facier, then they can say, oh, the house just burned down. Well, we got an indemnis facier, so we'll just go stay in a hotel and we'll pick another one. It's going to be very simple and cut and dry. Whoever has the title has the indemnis facier, and they can take care of whatever it needs to be taken care of.
Islam, okay. I was just briefly trying to go through and slowly so you guys can see all of this stuff that we just X'd out by exactly what she just stated. I just wanted to go through it so you guys would see that yourselves. And which brings us to the next one-liner, okay? Improvements in fixtures. Property is going to be exchanged as is. And once again, the receiver indemnis facier covers all improvements and fixtures and so forth that you would be putting in, and this would be any repairs or rehab, construction, etc. that was not taken care of prior to closing. You're not coming from a place of lack. I got to repeat that again. So you're going to have the credits necessary to get the work done, whatever needs to be done. Okay, so it's okay to purchase as is. I know in the corporate world, when people seen as is, many homeowners, okay, that were quote unquote occupying the property ran, okay? They didn't want to hear as is. They wanted to know, oh, that seller's going to do these improvements. I need that roof done. I want to make sure the electrical's done. Who's doing the plumbing? This is wrong, that's wrong. And they knew that I'm going to have to pay for it and I'm going to be in a lot of debt. I don't want it to pay for this. So seller, could you do this, this, and that, and the other? Once again, the indemnis facier or your sovereign credits through your delirium, so forth, will take care of anything that is needed to be repaired. You're going to do the inspection. The inspection is going to be done prior. You should know everything that needs to be done. Your real estate scientist will be working with you. As she stated, you will have a relationship, through whatever that you may need at that time to help you guys govern and close the transaction yourself, okay? So we didn't need all of this. Let me show you. We didn't need this section. We didn't need all of this, okay? This is only for coming from the place of lack and debt. We don't need that, okay? So now, moving forward, because now we're at the end. Oh, look at this, guys. Look at this. It took us, let's see, this is the second page, okay? Yeah. So technically the contract is 2 pages. Once again, you can add or subtract and edit however you need to. Like said it earlier that, we are just putting a basic formula in place. Yes, do your dance, do the happy dance, because we was trying to narrow it down. So it's literally 2 pages. This, you've already seen this section before, which was also on the sovereign credit, and it's really just for you to go ahead and put your autograph. It says receiver here. You put all your receiver information right here. Very simple. Nothing too much really to look at. Bam. Grantor, they put all their information here. Really simple. Nothing to really look at. You guys already know this. This particular portion is solely to make sure that whoever the grantor is going to be able to know that everything has been turned in as far as your authentication, that you have your documents and all your affidavits and everything in, which all that's going to be done, so they'll know that you are who you say you are, because you gave all the affidavits of who you are. You are the heir. You've already did everything that you needed to do prior to even coming to put a contract. All that would be taken care of. Islam.
And that can be put on the public record, so they can look at the public record. They don't have to necessarily even come to the Alma Rock and American Exchange. They can put it on the public record. It's
That's
just
right.
that we're putting together the universal commercial platform that is the rebuttal to the stock exchange and the corporations and all of that. That's what the American Exchange is. But you can put your documents on the public record as well. We're all about just do it. Do something. Don't do nothing. Do something.
And it's always good to have multiple places on the public record to have it. But the exchange, just like even the land bank and so forth, the Mexican land bank and so forth, is only to give in more like a universal, worldwide place that others will be able to come to, and they'll know, oh, I can come here. But then they also know that they can do a search and find records that you put in yourself. But if they can't find them on the public record for whatever reason, they'll be able to go to the exchange. Okay, they'll be able to go to the Mexican land bank and see those affidavits that was recorded. Okay.
Yeah.
And lastly,
where
property is concerned only. That's right. Mm-hmm. And lastly is the real estate sciences information here. So then we'll just keep record of who was all involved in the closing of this transaction. That's it, guys. This is it. I am done. Yes.
You want to say down 1,000 pages of stuff into like 5 pages. I gotta give it to you.
Yes.
I gotta give it to you. That's just amazing work, because the colorability is gone out of the process.
Right.
I love that, and that's the point of all.
Are
of
you
this
trying to start a rate war?
Oh, sweetie, there's no such thing as race. Oh.
That's so funny. That's hilarious.
That is hilarious. But we love her. We love you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We love you, subject.
Albions are not going to roll over for us. They're not. They're going to fight.
If they want a war amongst themselves,
no. They cannot.
They cannot.
We're not warring. It's peace.
No, we are
who
at
can
peace.
fight God? Who can?
We're at peace.
What are they gonna do?
She sounds so old. I'm surprised she's still alive.
Yeah, you guys, they're coming from a place of fear right now. We're at peace. We're not warring. So I don't know what they're gonna do amongst themselves. Were you gonna say something like?
Yes, I'm about to say something. Seriously, what is it about this process that's made her say that they are going to fight?
Oh,
because
we checkmate. Yes, checkmate.
Could that be it?
That's right. You know what it was. They weren't doing this with those old processes. Yes. They weren't doing that with those old processes.
No. They didn't even care about the old processes because they knew that stuff was not going to do nothing. But when you get them processes right and you're peaceful and you're not trying to fight nobody, they're not even our focus. We're our focus. As long as we stay focused on us, it's a wrap. And no, we're not going to fight anyone. And they're not going to fight either. She's just saying that. That's not going to really happen. So, man, that's powerful though.
Mm-hmm.
That a 5-page process can make her say something like that.
And talking about worried about license, we're not worried about licensing. Licensing is a wrap. That's over too, guys. All licenses is over.
That's why she said that.
Yes. Yes.
That's why she said that.
Yes.
So I'm actually excited.
I was about to say the same thing. I'm excited
because they're just letting us know we're on the right path and we're doing the right things and focused on the right things. And again, in red and all lowercase letters, that bothers that because they know it's right. They know that's right. So, Empress today. Another applause for your hard work. I love it because Empress today fine-tooth combs all them long pages of stuff and just all the way down to something sovereign and to the point. I love it. So are there any questions from the heirs about any of this? And again, we're going to simplify every single process that we have Yes, I'm blown away by her too. Justice Apollo Empress Shade, you see in the chat. I just love it. You know, we're going to keep going and keep doing what we're doing because we're definitely in the right jurisdiction. Let me put it that way. Empress Shade, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
No problem, no problem. No problem at all. We're going to keep moving. Yes, we're definitely in the right direction, like you said, and we're going to keep moving. And we know it's working. The things we're doing is working. They would not be here saying the stuff that they're doing if it wasn't working, guys. So let's just keep up the hard work. You know, keep up the hard work and do those demonstrations. Keep vibrating. Keep drinking that water. Keep the focus on us. Don't let those distractions take us away from us. As you say there, I'm gonna have a T-shirt saying "We got this." I'm gonna get a T-shirt made saying "We got this." It's a wrap.
Yes, yes. Empress Jazzy Cooks, Empress Minnie Price Bay. She sent me a T-shirt with it's in all lowercase letters. It says "Moors, we got this." It's a wrap.
Oh, I got to get one.
It's beautiful too. I love it. It is absolutely. I just cracked up when I saw it. Yes, Islam Justice Frank, I see you in the chat there. With that being said, if there are no other questions, comments, or anything like that, just be patient with us. We're working as quickly as we can to get everything out there to you so that, you know, we can all speak with one voice. You know, that's why we're here. And then Justice Apollo, any demonstrations that any Moors want to do, don't stop your demonstrations just because of what we're doing. Do your demonstrations if you feel led to do them, and then, you know, and we're going to just keep putting whatever information we get from the ancestral energies and from our studies out there. Islam. Peace.
Islam.
And grand. Yes, nobility.
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Oh, okay. Islam. Peace and grand rising.
To the Moors. Go ahead, say it.
Grand rising.
Empress Shade.
Thank you, Empress Shade.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you, Empress Light, for coming in. You did a good job. Thank you. I seen you give it all to me, but you know you can't do it a lot. Empress Light, thank you. Okay. Islam. Peace and grand rising, Moors.
Grand rising.